I done started this video like 3 times. Hello, y'all. So I want to hop right into the discussion of my last few job experiences that I've had. I would say from 22 to currently. So I have to jump back a little bit before then. I started working for the post office in 2018 to 20. Um, I had left to basically start my own e-commerce, and it wasn't going the way that I had planned it. So I was asking God, if I'm supposed to have looking for signs that I was actually doing the right thing. So I'm asking him, like, am I doing the right thing? Um, and I asked him for a sign. I said, if this is what I'm supposed to be doing, at least give me a seal. And I tell you no lie, I got a seal. I'll never forget it was from New York. And the New York area. And so I was like, okay, so I do supposed to be in business. I was like, wonderful. And so I didn't get a sale um for my sister. She supported me and purchased things. I won't say I didn't get another sale, but from outside of family and friends, that was the only sale I had gotten. And I was like, okay, so I got my sign. And so I was like, so what's the problem? So it was timing. It was not his timing yet for me to enter into operating a business. So I ended up having to go back working a 9 to 5, so to speak. And so I ended up going to, I actually started working as I really do hate that I have seborrheic dermatitis because it flakes up at the wrong time. But anyways, um, I went and started working at a commercial laundry company, and immediately, because I have a um, degree in business admin, I was looking around, observing, and I was like, these people have no clue of what they are doing. And I started like talking to them, like telling them, okay, well, here's an issue that you need to address when it comes to training. And they like even came to me and was like, would you like to be a supervisor? And I was like, yeah, if there's a position open. And so, at least to say that didn't happen. Um, I feel like looking back over that situation, they were just intimidated, and they wanted to know what my goals of being there were, trying to protect their position. And so I was there only for a few weeks. I had got fed up with them and not being trained properly. And so I ended up leaving. They actually sent me home early one night, and I was like, yeah, y'all don't know what you're doing, so I'm just not going to basically. And I actually went up to the gentlemen's that night, the two supervisors, because it was basically, I worked the graveyard shift, and I basically went up to them and was like, I'm just gonna end our work relationship now because I disapprove of the way that you are basically handling my training. This is a performance based position, and I feel like I'm not being trained properly, so I'm just going to end it here. And their way of dealing with not training people properly was just to, well, they sent me home and I was like, yeah, no. So I ended up getting a job like soon after at Amazon, one of the Amazon DSP. And because I worked for the post office previously, like I just needed to know how Amazon operated, what they rules and process, basically what their process and procedures were. And so once I learned that, I was fine. Um, so God had sent me on a journey because I felt like um I had worked there actually. It was like almost I think I was like I left January 24th and I started May 22. So I was like 4 months short of being there 2 years. And so um basically I always felt led. I was like, I don't even think I was supposed to be, in my hometown, which was in Florida. I was like, I don't even think I'm supposed to be around here anymore because I'm basically just going around in circles. I'm being stagnant. I'm not progressing. And that was troublesome to me because I felt like I know the parable of the talents and gifts, that if you bury your gift, that God will call you wicked, that is not what he intended for us to do, to bury our gifts. He intended for us to use them. And so I was like, I don't understand why I keep finding my place. Just because I'm moving, I'm not progressing. I'm just moving. I always um likened my movement to that of a hamster. I was on a I was moving, but I wasn't going anywhere. Um, so I was tired of that, and I was like, I had been asking God, like, what do you want me to do? Um, and I had sensed in my spirit that He wanted me to um leave my hometown, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, how am I going to do that? Because um, I did save a pretty penny when I left the post office. I left the post office with 10K, and I was like, that's gone. I spent that on the business that failed, so I don't understand how this is gonna be possible. So I just kept living my life, and I started reasoning with him. I said, if you give me X amount of money, then I'll go. So he ended up giving me the money, and I said, okay. But I didn't leave immediately. I said, uh-uh. I was like, I need to know you really want me to leave. And so he was like, I really want you to leave. And I'm like, so I was stalling. I was like, and I started thinking, oh, where am I going to go? I've never been outside of the state of Florida. I've never visited the place you're telling me to go. So how, like, where do you want me to go? And he was like, just go. And I was like, okay. Like, just go. He was like, just go. And so I ended up leaving, and I went to the place that he wanted me to go. And so when I got there, uh, I do have an older sister, and she was like, do you have any, like, you know where you're going to live? You know where you're going to work? And I'm like, mm-mm. I have the slightest idea. I'm just going by faith. God told me to go, so I'm going. And she was like, that's crazy. She was like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. Like, mm-hmm. Like this has been signs of me doing this have been going on for like months now. Like, I'm sure he wants me to go. And so I got to the place where he wanted me to go, and I was like, okay, what's the next steps? And so, um, because I haven't visited the state or the city that um, he had directed me to go to, I didn't know where he wanted me to go, but I knew I was in the right spot because um, I stay asking for signs. I'm sorry because when you don't have a mentor and you're well, I won't say you won't have a mentor because your mentor is the Holy Ghost, but in Jesus, because we're all trying to be Christ-like, right? So when he says you do, he's telling you to do something that you haven't seen anyone else around you accomplish that goal is kind of hard because you don't have anything to go by besides his direction. And most times that's where he wants you. He wants you to learn his voice. And so um I'll keep going a few more minutes before I don't want to make this a very long um vlog. So um I had asked him for a sign that I was in the right spot. So I asked him, I said, okay, if I'm in the right spot, show me a butterfly. And no lie, it was this wall I passed by, and it was a large art painting on the wall, and it had butterflies. I said, oh, okay. I said, good, I'm in the right city. This is what you want. And so um, I started trying to um, get stable, and basically I started filling out applications, looking. I would drive around to surrounding cities and around the area to see um, how the area was, like what was life around that area. And I'll tell you, where I started is not where I finished. When I started, I was in the south portion of the city, and he ended up taking me to the northern part, and um, that's where my second part of this will come in, regarding what I have experienced since then. Um, but to finish this vlog, I want to say that I ended up finding an income, a job, and I also found an apartment. And I got here. Um, I left my hometown. I think it was July 15th or 16th, and I got a job like around September, around that same time. So from August, where I had left my previous job at Amazon in January. So from January to um, September, I was out of work. Now I'm in a new town. I find work. I have to now create stability, which is finding an apartment, um, and finding income. And that's where I'm currently still in that same apartment. But of course, I've now left the job. So that's where part two was started. The experiences I've had um up until that point. So look out for part two. And thank you for listening. And I hope you gain any inspiration or um any hope that, and I hope you have gained that God really does talk, and He's guiding us through our everyday life individually, not just become Christ-like, but as individuals. And so look out for part 2.